The new Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
The prior question dealt with a definition of civics. I would like to follow it up with a question of primary cause. First, I should have said, my name is Ken Moskowitz, and I'm from Conshohocken. And the question is, you had both Scott and Richard talked in your introduction of Republican democracy. But also in your introduction, Mr. Dreyfuss, you referred to and praised power to the people. There's a distinct difference in those two concepts.
I've never used that phrase.
You didn't. It's what I heard in what you were talking regarding a praise of the power being given to the people.
Have as final political arbiters, yes.
Yeah. So if the difference between a democracy and a Republican democratic form of government, if address that issue.
Anyone know about this Charlie Reese column that's going around the internet right now? There's a column by a guy from Orlando, Florida, a journalist, who says, politicians are the only ones who create an issue and oppose it. I am not making the error of saying we are a democracy. We are a Republican democracy, a representative democracy. That's what I say. A democracy, pure, means that the people in its majority have the power. A representative democracy is based on trust, that we trust our representatives, we trust our judges, we trust the people, because as fine an idea as it is that people be the final arbiters of power, it's a good thing to give them some speed bumps and obstacles to force them to stop and think every once in a while and not let the majority in its hysteria simply spill the blood of various minorities. So we have a republic, a Republican democracy that is based on trust, and when we pass term limits or we tell judges that we cannot allow them to sentence criminals because they don't sentence them harshly enough, we are saying that we don't trust them. In other words, if you enter public service, you're a criminal and a loser. If you enter public service as a politician, you are immediately defined by that definition as a criminal or a criminal in the making. You don't build trust by doing that. I'm against term limits, and I'm against anyone telling judges they can't sentence criminals. That's what they're there for. You can't deny their life experience that easily. But Alexander Hamilton made a very important speech at the Philadelphia Convention in 1787. He described a country that he wanted, which was based upon the British because of its corruption, which was based upon the House of Lords because it had life terms and they could be hereditary or kings. And he described the exact monster under our bed. And George Mason of Virginia turned to him and said, "Sir, what about the people?" And he said, "The people, sir, is a great beast." So we've always had this argument whether we can trust you or trust our representatives enough. I'll tell you one thing. If you don't exemplify reason, it doesn't exist. If you don't educate people to what representative democracy is, it doesn't exist. If you don't tell them how freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion can be expressed, it doesn't exist. And when you load up the game and say, you don't have to be taught anything, our side has all the power, you are simply replicating what we fled in Europe.
Scott Faulkner, let me ask you for a second. Scott, how does the Dreyfuss Initiative deal with controversy? Does it see controversy, as I do, as a way to engage kids? I think schools sometimes back away from this way too much. There are outstanding issues and we become politically correct and we make everything mush. Does it engage those type of issues, or does it do you have to try to stay away from that in order to get any traction with getting this into schools?
The key is that we should be passionate about what we are passionate about. We should, but also the whole underpinnings of a civic culture, especially ours, is to be able to give public space to those we disagree with. And that means that civility is not about being wussy, it is not about avoiding conflict, it's about managing conflict in a positive way, in a productive way. I mean, some of the most destructive years of this democracy, this Republican democracy, has been the last 20, because you have such a partisan prism that has poisoned this country, where you have people who, on each side of the political spectrum, demonize the other side and do not look across the aisle and say, that's a good idea, I'll be for it. Or my party screwed up on something and I'm going to call them out on it.
I will take more questions for Scott Faulkner and Richard Dreyfuss, coming to you from the Constitution Center. Our final segment, as we discuss the Dreyfuss Initiative, we'll try to get on as many people as we can here at the new Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
The new Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.